Chapter 4. The Society of Grace. Zechariah chapter 3, verses 1 to 10. And he showed me Joshua the high priest standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing at his right hand to resist him. And the Lord said unto Satan, The Lord rebuke you, O Satan. Even the Lord that hath chosen Jerusalem rebuke thee. Is not this a brand plucked out of the fire? Now Joshua was clothed with filthy garments, and stood before the angel. And he answered and spake unto those that stood before him, saying, Take away the filthy garments from him. And unto him he said, Behold, I have caused thine iniquity to pass from thee, and I will clothe thee with change of raiment. And they said, Let them set a fair mitre upon his head. So they set a fair mitre upon his head, and clothed him with garments. And the angel of the Lord stood by. And the angel of the Lord protested unto Joshua, saying, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, If thou wilt walk in my ways, and if thou wilt keep my charge, then thou shalt also judge my house, and shalt also keep my courts, and I will give thee places to walk among these that stand by. Hear now, O Joshua the high priest, thou and thy fellows that sit before thee, for they are men wondered at. For behold, I will bring forth my servant, the branch. For, behold, the stone that I have laid before Joshua, upon one stone shall be 7 eyes. Behold, I will engrave the graving thereof, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will remove the iniquity of that land in one day. In that day, saith the Lord of hosts, shall ye call every man his neighbour under the vine and under the fig tree. In this vision, Zechariah sees Joshua the high priest standing before God. Joshua, as priest, was the representative of the people to God, and he had gone before God in the role that was his as high priest to seek forgiveness for their sins. In the vision, he sees Joshua symbolically clothed in filthy garments, indicating that all the righteousness of the people, as the prophet Isaiah had declared, was as filthy rags. Isaiah chapter 64, verse 6. Joshua is waiting to be clothed by the angel of the Lord, God the Son, Jesus Christ, in white garments. Joshua was putting his hope, in other words, not in his own righteousness, not in his work, but in what God, through God the Son, Jesus Christ, was to do for his people. But in this attempt, Joshua found resistance. In the vision, we see Satan standing at his right hand to resist Joshua, verse 1. The position is a most significant one. From earliest times until fairly recently, to be at the right hand of a man had a great symbolic significance. First, anyone at the right hand of a man had the power to impede him. Most people are right-handed. Whether it was in antiquity, drawing the sword in their defense, or in more recent times, drawing a gun, it was important that you had only the man you could absolutely trust on your right hand. But, even more than that, the position of the right hand meant one not only of absolute trust, but of authority and power. The person who was at the right hand represented the person who was the administrator, prime minister, vice judge, or mediator between the throne and the people. The Apostles' Creed declares that Jesus Christ, having ascended into heaven, is now on the right hand of God the Father Almighty. In reciting the Apostles' Creed, we therefore confess our faith that he is now the mediator between God and man. This is the significance of being at the right hand. In other words, Satan, by standing at the right hand of Joshua the high priest, the man who represented the church, was saying in effect, I am the true mediator between the church and God, and the way you are taking is not the right way. I have a better way. We then have the rebuke of God the Son, the angel of the Lord, to Satan, because this was a clash between the two of them. Who was the representative? Who was the true mediator? Joshua, because he sought atonement for the people of God, found justification and sanctification. Take away the filthy garments from him. Behold, I have caused thine iniquity to pass from thee, and I will clothe thee with change of raiment. Verse 4. Having been justified and sanctified, he is crowned with the mitre to indicate his priesthood and his restoration into the true calling of Adam to be prophet, priest, and king under God, to exercise dominion over the earth. But, as verse 7 makes clear, this calling is conditional in its blessings upon his faith and obedience. He is to walk in the ways of the Lord and to keep the charge of the Lord, to cultivate holiness and faithfulness, to cultivate obedience. If he obeys, he shall judge God's house, the temple, and the nation, and walk among these that stand by. Verse 7, that is, the angels, to be a co-worker with the heavenly hosts in the fulfillment of God's promises. As such, Joshua is told, ye shall be men wondered at. Verse 8. In other words, men of wonder or of science, men who set forth in their person that which God plans to do, who are going to reveal in history a holy confidence, a power that is not of man, and for whom God shall manifest himself. For, the prophecy continues, behold, I will bring forth my servant, the branch. Verse 8. One of the names for Jesus Christ. And I will remove the iniquity of that land in one day. Verse 9. Through the atoning work of Jesus Christ on the cross, the sins of the people shall be removed in one day, and a foundation stone shall be laid, and 7 eyes shall be upon it. Verse 10. In other words, the fullness, the totality of God's watchfulness and care shall be fixed upon his true church and his community. It shall be called to victory, to establish a society of grace, and every man shall call every man his neighbour under the vine and under the fig tree. Verse 10. The reign of Christ, when it is fully manifested, shall be one of enjoyment, every man relaxing under his vine and fig tree with liberty, enjoying his own property in benevolence and brotherhood, calling every man his neighbour, because they are now one in Christ. This is a picture of the society of grace. It begins with justification through the saving work of Jesus Christ, so that man stands, not on his works, on his righteousness, but upon God's work and the righteousness of God in Christ. It culminates in a world where the principle of peace is the Prince of Peace, Christ. But this order, this society, has its enemy who claims to be the true representative of both God and man, the one who believes that he has the best way, the best interpretation of what constitutes true liberty, of what constitutes a true society. He offered it, first of all, to Eve. Ye shall be as gods, knowing, that is, determining for yourself what constitutes good and evil. Genesis chapter 3, verse 5. Satan's picture of the good society was every man his own god, every man at liberty to declare for himself what constitutes morality, what constitutes truth. Man, thus, is the creator and the builder of the great society, and is beyond good and evil. This is the foundation of the new morality. This is the foundation of the new theology. Every man his own God, every man living beyond good and evil, determining for himself according to his own dictates what constitutes good and evil. This is he who is now preached as the new Christ also, even Satan, so that what we hear today from the pulpits of most of the churches is not the gospel according to Christ, but the gospel of Antichrist. Satan as a mediator between God and man, Satan's plan as a true one. Perhaps nothing brings it home more clearly to us than a poem written and appearing in a church periodical for August of 1966. This church periodical is the official organ of one major church and is closely tied up financially and in personnel in its various activities with virtually every church in the United States and some abroad. Not only Protestant, but Catholic and Jewish as well. The poem is entitled The Tiger Christ, a Prayer for the Once Dead, and the motto for the poem is a line from William Blake. The tigers of wrath are wiser than the horses of instruction. The poem, which is very brief, reads simply, The tiger Christ is black and full of rage. He burns to live, to spring forth from his cage, and to be iniquity, iniquity. His heart is laced with iron, and his eyes molten glass. He lives to terrify and to be iniquity, iniquity. His 4 black paws are 4 chrysanthemums that spread it denies. His furry football runs to be iniquity, iniquity. No cage can hold the tiger Christ awake from angry sleep. He has a thirst of sleep, and be iniquity, iniquity. No levelled gun can touch his levelled will. He wills to leap. He leaps, he screams, and his scream is shrill to be iniquity, iniquity. Fall down, white walls, and hide yourself in dust. The living tiger lives. His holy being must be iniquity, iniquity. This is the new Christ that is preached, the Antichrist. This is he whom they claim to be the true representative of God and the true representative of man. However, the true mediator still stands as Zechariah saw him. But today, Satan stands at the right hand of the church, and today is proclaimed in virtually every pulpit, so that the battle is joined between the society of Satan and the society of Christ. The society of the world beyond good and evil, where we are told Christ's holy being must be iniquity. He who declares that we stand justified by his atoning blood. If we believe and obey him, the outcome in history will be that he shall call every man his neighbour under the vine and under the fig tree. Verse 10. This, then, is the issue of history. This is the battle in which we are today joined. There is no compromise, no conditional peace in this war. It is a battle to death on the one hand and victory on the other. Thanks be to God, we have been called to victory, for this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our faith. 1 John chapter 5, verse 4.